Thank you all and good evening for attending. We apologize for the technical delays, but thank you for being patient. Again, my name is Dr. Sherelle Bailey, and I will be facilitating your host, facilitating the conversation regarding the best ways that you can help your child succeed at school. I am thankful for the participants, for our guests, and our interpreters for attending this webinar tonight. Before I begin, I would like to hand it over to our Senior Director, Dr. Lena Kartorshian, and she would introduce the panelists for tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. Good evening, parents, and good evening, all participants. I'm Lena Kortoshian. I'm the Senior Director of Teaching and Learning. Teaching and Learning Department values our parents because we value you, because we believe in partnership with you. We want all of our students to be successful at school. I'm sure that's your goal as well, and that's why being partners with you, we can make this, we can achieve the goal. So tonight, I am very honored and lucky to have with us Ms. Rebecca Milwaukee, the coordinator of teaching and learning. Also, we have our teacher specialists, Talina Rakelian, Kristen Caban, and Polly Jackson. They are the experts and they will deliver an amazing information tonight. So please listen carefully so you will be able to help your student at home so we can achieve our goal of making them successful. Rebecca, take it away.
All right. Dr. Bailey, can you share the screen so we can see the slides on display? While they're doing that, welcome parents, welcome family members. My name is Rebecca Milwaukee, and I am a 27-year veteran educator of middle school English, 7th grade specifically. But I also have a wonderful opportunity to help develop Glendale's teachers and help us be as effective as we can be helping your child and children learn in class when they come to school at GUSD. All of us on the call tonight are educators who care deeply about unlocking the potential of the learners in this district, and that's your kids. We also, some of us are parents, and we have had our own experiences of having to help our students and our children succeed at home. So what we thought we would do for you this evening is take that whole topic, that big wide world of supporting learners at home, and condense it into 10 tips, 10 simple things that you can try at home to help increase the positive experience of your child at school and to help make you both feel really successful and confident about what's happening in your child's academic life. So the first thing I'd like to share with you on slide 2, if you could advance the slide. And I'm not able to see these, so I'm going to trust, are y'all seeing the slides? Yeah, we're good? Okay, so we have decided to break the topic into 4 key categories. The first big idea where you can be helpful to your son, daughter, or child is in helping them stay organized. The second idea is helping support them around their academics, the instruction that they receive at school, and how learning can be maximized. The third category is the social and emotional pieces, which can bring a lot of weather and energy to the home life. We're going to help you navigate that. And finally, we're also going to talk to you about how to navigate the school system itself so that you can get the answers that you need, feel connected to the school system here in Glendale, and help your child learn how they can advocate for themselves when they're at school and be empowered when they're at home working on schoolwork and trying to consolidate all that important learning. So I'm going to move into our first category of organization. Lots of times as kids grow up, when they're little, we understand the importance of needing to help them stay and be organized. We teach them systems for how to put their clothes in the drawers, how to organize their toys, how to set up their room so that it's clean and neat. They even learn from you how your house is organized and where people eat, where they watch television. how bills get paid. There's so many things we do to help our small children be organized at home. But then once they grow up and they become adolescents and move into middle and high school, we often feel that they should know how to organize themselves academically for success. And the reality is that all of us need help staying organized our whole lives long. And as the parent or the guardian or the caregiver, there are very specific things you can do to help your sons and daughters and children stay and be organized. Things like, actually, I won't go into it because I think I'm going to hand it over to one of my specialists. Crystal is going to take up this topic and talk about things you can do in the house to help your children be organized. So the only thing I'll say before I hand it off to Crystal is that sometimes we feel like the older they get, the less we need to help them, but developmentally, children need help with organization all through school. And your children will send you signals and signs as they get older that they're able to take that on more successfully. And when they give you those signals, that's when you can release your support. But usually all of us need help all the way to graduation. So Crystal, take it away and share tip number 1.
Great. So tip number 1 is setting your student up for success at home. And these are great ways that you can support your student by helping them set up a dedicated workspace. This allows and this really helps students focus on their homework by mentally getting them in that work mode and minimizing distractions. Another wonderful way to support your student is to ensure that they have a specific schedule, because you can help them organize a plan for homework and homework management. It's important for students to take breaks. I can't stress that enough. We give breaks at school, we have snack, we have lunch. They should have a break before they start doing their homework. So when they get home, you can give them a snack, you can let them play. It's important to encourage them to take time to enjoy their hobbies. So take a break and then they can get started with homework. Once they start their homework, have them stick to a schedule, give them some 15-minute manageable breaks, and teach them how to break up different tasks so that they're more manageable. This is going to help them not procrastinate, and it will help them get their work done on time. And definitely ask your child questions. Ask them about what they're doing in school. Celebrate all of their achievements, all of their efforts. Check to make sure their homework is completed. And encourage them to ask you questions. This is a wonderful way to encourage curiosity and inquisitiveness.
Right, next slide. Tip number 2. Talene, you're muted.
Hi, everyone. So tip number 2 deals with routines. So when we talk about routines, it's important to note that while our students are in class and in school, they're learning a variety of different routines. Everything that is done in a very kind of methodical and specific manner, no matter what grade our students are in. So translating that into the home and making sure that we're building routines for our students at home not only reinforces what they're learning in school, but it also reinforces in the other way. At school, it's reinforcing what's happening at home. Routines help students know what to expect, whether it's in a classroom or it's at home. For example, we wake up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we get ready, and then we go have breakfast, and then we get our belongings and we go to school. That's a morning routine that, children can have. It also helps them build time management skills, because when we build routines, we need to determine what is it that you have to do, how do you have to do it, and when do you have to do it. So you have to figure out how long it's going to take you and kind of where to place that into your day. So those scheduling skills and those time management skills are valuable, and they transfer, beyond the classroom as well. So these are not just school skills that they're learning. And then it also helps students focus because by determining what is it that they have to do, they take a moment to really figure out what are the steps and the tasks that they need to complete, how do they need to complete them, and then they can attach them to a concrete timeline. So creating these structures are going to really help set them up for success, because these are skills, especially when we talk about organizations and routines, that they have to be learned in practice. They're not innate. They're something that we really have to continuously do until we're able to internalize it, and it kind of becomes second nature. And with our routines, it's important to include things like making sure that part of your routine is taking care of your workspace, making sure that it's organized and clean and you don't have distractions, making sure that you are scheduling things and chunking those tasks into different categories of what needs to be done. And then also by setting these routines and knowing that you have completed each task, it also motivates you to continue to keep working towards whatever you are working towards. And when you see your child following these routines and doing whatever steps it is that they need to do, it's important to also praise them, to let them know that you see them learning these skills and practicing these skills.
Wonderful. Next slide, Polly.
Good evening. I want to talk about the backpack. That's something that comes from school to home, and it comes back to the house in a variety of ways. So one thing that we want to do, or what I love what Rebecca said, is being organized is a learned skill. So same thing with the backpack. It is a learned skill. So you can help your child by being organized with their backpack. And you also know your child. Every child is different. The amount of time that you are going to need to give them to look through their backpack may be different. I also would say when you are shopping for supplies, you want to have them part of that experience. You want to have them shop with you and select the different items. And they can talk about color coding and the different options that they can have for that. And again, I would definitely have them make sure that they take out that binder and backpack and empty it out and look for all of those pieces that need to go inside of different folders and different colors. I know my son, he always wanted to put one color as math and one color as English and history and so forth. And it just made it a lot easier to be organized when you had it color coded. Because as we all know, that backpack can get really messy and with all those loose papers. So getting all those loose papers and putting them in an organized space. So when they come to class, they are prepared and ready to learn.
Awesome. Thank you, Polly. Our second, that rounds out our first category around organization, moving into the second zone of academics. When students are in TK all the way to grade 6 at elementary, they are with the same teacher for the whole day for the most part, and they have English, science, social studies, math, PE, and art. Several students have dual language instruction. When kids move into middle and high school, they have all those same core academics in different standalone classrooms. They have electives, they have sports, they might have the arts. Today, what we'd like to do is talk to you about math and literacy, because those are two power subjects that either once acquired help students be truly successful in all the others, or if a child is strong mathematically, that is a power set of skills that sets them up for success in life. We want to talk to you about everything all night long, but we're going to focus on literacy and math for the next couple of minutes. So tip number 4 that can bring you a lot of impact for your time at home with kids is to establish an environment that promotes reading and promotes literacy. How can you do this? You can make sure that your home is a print-rich environment. To whatever degree you can, have lots of things in the home that your children can look at, can read, can sound out words, things like cereal boxes, food labels, magazines, mail, posters, emails, and then don't get me started on books. I'm an English teacher. I have thousands of books at my house, here in my office, in my car even, and in every tote bag I own. And when when my son was school age, we had a library day every single Saturday, and he could check out as many books as he could carry home, and often did, huge piles of books. But item number one is make sure that you invest in making an environment at home that's filled with books and with words. And second, that you devote some time each day if you can, or if not, several times a week, when you model reading with your children, or that you invite them to read. Kids love cuddling up with their parents and their loved ones. They love cuddling up to read and snuggle with siblings or with pets, or really with anybody. Find time to make that a possibility, and that will pay large dividends in their learning when they come to school. My son, he's grown now, but when he was a teenager, he loved when people would pass gas. I won't say the word here tonight, but he decided to rename our reading time Family Reading Time, capital F, lowercase a, R-T, Family Reading Time. And so we did that every day, and he got a huge laugh out of it. So whatever you have to do to encourage the reading at home, please do. Also, let your kids know all reading counts. If they're listening to an audiobook, if they're listening to a podcast, if they're reading labels, magazines, and email, all reading is quality reading. Sometimes we get it in our heads that only reading really hard books is the best help for a learner, and that's not true. We need kids to be very nimble readers, very flexible readers. Information is coming at kids from all avenues, through their phones, through the radio, through the podcast, through school, the textbooks, and the books they're reading for independent reading. They need to be able to move in and out of all of those contexts with a lot of strength and confidence. So any kind of reading is good. Also, play word games. See if you can come up with 100 words that start with CH. Play bingo with words. Play word games like Boggle, or do crossword puzzles. All of that is a helpful tool in increasing your child's literacy and ability to read. Okay, next up is Crystal.
So let's talk about some fantastic reading strategies that you can help your child practice when they're outside of school. These are some samples, and one great strategy that you can use, you can play detective with your child and help them search for context clues to figure out unknown words. So what does this look like? You can say, okay, there's a word that we don't know. Let's stop and reread the sentence. Pay attention to the words that come before and after the unfamiliar word. Gather clues and then help them make an educated guess about the word's meaning. This is a wonderful way that you can help them, and they'll have a blast at being a reading detective. Next slide, please. Questions to ask your child about reading when they get home. Talking to your child about reading is so important. It helps children have more opportunities to engage with a story they are reading outside the four walls of their classroom. It helps them develop more robust, stronger language and reading skills. It helps them stretch their thinking abilities, and it gives them multiple opportunities to engage with concepts that they're learning in school. You can ask your child questions before they're reading a story, during the story, and then after reading the story. It will be a wonderful way to connect with your child about what they're learning in school.
I had a thought, Crystal, while you were talking. It was an idea that the secondary English teachers include in their classrooms. And I was having a thought that as a parent, if I knew that, it would help me have conversations with my child about books. And it was in the English classrooms, the teachers often ask the students to connect what they've read to their lives, to other books or stories they've read, and then to the world at large. And this is helping them think and make connections. And when we ask them to do that, if they've read a lot, it's wonderful when they say, oh my gosh, this book I just read reminds me of this other book or this series. All of a sudden, all these brain cells are lighting up about connections they're seeing. And that's a skill that's helpful in social studies, in world language acquisition, in science. So the connecting to life, self, and other books is an important thing parents could do as well.
Yes.
Holly?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about math and its importance. We all have feelings about math, and you may have gone through school and had feelings about math. One thing that I'm going to encourage you to do is leave those negative feelings to yourself. You may have trauma, but you don't want to put that on your child. So often I feel like parents say, oh, I hated that class, or, oh, math, not again. And then the child feels that as well. So I would say, make sure that if you do have negative feelings about math, hold those to yourself, because we know how important it is for their success in future to know math. So some fun ways to do that is, I love Rebecca's idea of playing games. Play as many games as you can with your child, and like some of the games that I loved playing with my son and still do are like Yahtzee and Uno and different card games that get them counting, get them thinking about numbers. Anytime you're out and shopping, have them count, see how many things that they see. Ask them, maybe you can even ask them, like, how many more would it take to make 5, or how many more would it take to get them stretching their thinking as well. The older they get, another thing that would be really helpful is to talk about money and making change and trying to make that connection. As they get older, you can ask them to calculate the tip for the bill, or the tax. How much would that be? And then also hopefully talking to them about interest rates, so they don't get in trouble later in life with getting in too much debt and getting far away from themselves. And just showing them as many applications as you can to the real world. But again, just playing with them, getting them used to seeing numbers, showing them what you do with numbers is so important. All right, next.
Next up, tip 6, Talene. Uh-oh, Talene, you're on mute.
My apologies. I'm going to speak a little bit about connecting your child to resources. So the overarching kind of piece to this is, by connecting our child to resources outside of the classroom, the thing that we're doing is showing them that learning is all around us all the time. One of the big things that students oftentimes forget or lose sight of is that learning isn't just something that happens inside the classroom. It's something that just happens throughout life. As you grow, as you gain experiences, you're constantly learning and you're constantly adjusting as a result of information and input that you come across. So there's a variety of ways that we can connect our child to different resources outside of the classroom. So the first thing I want to talk about are field trips. A lot of times when we hear the term field trip, we think about school, we're going somewhere with our class, it's related to a unit that we're talking about. And it's, it is an option of, if you ask your student or your child, what did you guys do this week? What unit are you learning in? whichever subject or in all of your subjects, and you decide, okay, we are gonna take go on an adventure and go explore this kind of, whether it's a museum or a national park or whatever it may be. It can just be going down to, the neighborhood park and looking at nature, whatever it may be. Think of field trips in the home as kind of as fun trips. We're learning and we're exploring, but it's a very natural kind of progression of things. There are tons of museums, especially in Los Angeles County. So there's a lot of resources available. Quite a few of these museums have free museum days throughout the year as well, that are kind of geared towards getting families into the museum and kind of getting people more involved. There's science centers throughout the county. There are aquariums. There's virtual field trips where you don't even have to leave your home. You can log into the Smithsonian, check out different exhibits. National Geographic has virtual field trips. Google Earth has virtual field trips. But like I said, it can be something as simple as walking to your park, your local park, or driving to the beach, or even, taking a camping trip. That's a field trip as well. Anything where they're engaged with the world around them, whether it's that natural world around them or they're going into a space like a museum and they're accessing art or literature or whatever it may be. Kind of along the same lines of museums is learning how to research topics together. Researching topics together is actually a very, very important way that we can connect our child to resources, because by participating in research with your child, the first thing that you're doing is you're showing them that learning is a lifelong process. Learning isn't just something that is contained in the classroom, and when you leave the classroom, learning stops, and once you're done with school, learning is done forever. Participating in research with them shows them that this is something that is an ongoing process for the rest of their lives. It also shows them that when you put in work towards something, there is a reward. In that case, that reward is you learn something, or you discover something you didn't know, or you find the answer to a question you may have had. So it instills that idea of, when you do work towards a goal, eventually you will accomplish that goal and answer whatever question it is that you are seeking answers to. It's a learning opportunity for everyone involved. If you're doing research with your child is learning, but you're also learning as well. I think sometimes, especially in much younger students, one of the misconceptions, or just one of the ideas that you have about your parents, and I remember thinking like this as a kid, was my parents know everything there is to know in the world. And then, I'd go to school and I would learn something, and sometimes I'd ask them a question, a very content specific question, and they wouldn't have the answer. So taking that time to do research with them, it's a learning opportunity for everyone. And research doesn't have to be, let's go open an encyclopedia and read the pages. There's all sorts of fun ways where we can access information, whether it is going to the library, or it is going to a museum, or it's trying to do an experiment in your home, something that your student is curious about. And the last thing is that it gives you insight into your child and how they learn and what interests them. It allows you to kind of better understand how their kind of school mind and their learning works for them, so you're able to better serve their needs as well. And by being engaged in this process, you're also showing them the value of being an active participant in the learning process, why that's important, and how that makes you a kind of well-rounded individual. Another way of bringing resources in is also media. Our children are surrounded by all sorts of media sources all day long, every day. It's very important to not only make sure that we are aware of the kind of media that they access and make sure that it's safe and appropriate, but it's also very important to make sure that we are teaching them how to be responsible in the information that they access and to be able to determine whether that's something that is reliable or unreliable, or, you know, it needs to be looked into further. Along those same lines, there's all sorts of experts that, you know, we have access to. Our teachers aren't the only experts that we know, whether it is a family friend who works in a certain industry, or, you know, it's a local, let's say, a doctor or a firefighter, or just someone who is an expert in a certain field. Let them explore these things, let them have conversations. And then finally, community programs. Our community, just like many communities around the country, we have a lot of wonderful community programs that our students can participate in. There's scouting, there's explorer programs, whether it's with the hospital or with the police department. There's a variety of different volunteer opportunities out there. Engaging our students in these sorts of things and allowing them to explore these things once again reinforces that idea that learning is not just going to be confined to the classroom, and that your teacher is not your only source of knowledge and information out there.
Awesome. Talene, that was incredible. Thank you. Next slide, please. If we could move into the third category of home and school support. We want to talk a little bit about something that's quite humongous, actually, the social and emotional dynamics of being part of a school system. Now, school, of course, kids come to school so they can learn to read and write and to discover their potential and to help unlock it. But honestly, if you were to ask kids why they come to school and why they love coming to school, or even sometimes why school is a struggle, it has more to do with the social dynamics and the social harmonies and the relationship building that's happening during the day when they're away from you. And so it's important that you prep yourself to be able to navigate the relational piece of school, because emotionally that can be a thing that impedes learning. And so what we'd like to first share with you is that moment when there's a transition from school to home life, whether you pick your child up from school, whether they walk home or drive themselves home or take a bus, or however they're getting home, those first moments when you see your children after school. So many of us care for our kids' academics and for their success in life that we immediately want to engage with them around how was school? How was the day? What is your homework? Do you have a test tomorrow? And that transmits a message to them that school doesn't actually ever end, and the stress perhaps or anticipation or worry about school is going to continue after 3 o'clock, 3:15, 3:30. So we would like to encourage you to mix it up a little bit and to do something different with your children right when you see them after school. And instead of saying, what did you do at school today? Or what homework do you have? Instead, let them know that you're inviting them to re-knit back into the family unit with questions like, what made you feel great today? What did you eat that was weird or tasted bad? Are all of your friends doing okay? What's something you're looking forward to happening tonight? You want your child to have a moment to take a deep breath, to connect with you as parent, as a loved one, as an important person in their life, and to know that they're seen and valued and welcomed back with just a very loving embrace. Here's how I did it with my kids. I would say to my son, did anybody barf or cry at school today? That always elicited a great story. Or what did your teacher do today that was a shocker? Most times he would say nothing. They were all just themselves, but it invited different conversation that was not about the expectation that we get to homework right away or anything stressful about school immediately. It was much more fun and human. We spent at least a half hour to more on just relaxing and regrouping after a very tough day at school. I know it doesn't seem like it, but if you've ever followed a kid from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. through every one of their classes or every one of their subjects, it's exhausting. It is so physically exhausting and it's emotionally exhausting. They need cool down time. They need a break. So instead, create a joyful ritual that you and your child can do at pickup or at come home time. Ask about a highlight, a rose, not a thorn. Ask them about positive things, and definitely engage in a hug, a smile, good eye contact, and very calm breathing. If you can create a Zen transition, you'll find that children are ready to return to the idea of schoolwork, homework, projects, assignments, studying a little bit after a calm transition. Otherwise, if we do it the way we always do it, which is what do you have for homework? What's happening tomorrow? Defenses tend to come up, stress levels accelerate or go up again. And now we have to fight that. And we don't want to do that. We want to instead have a nice family moment, connect with your child, and then ease into a school ritual or a routine at home for getting homework done and attending to schoolwork. Tip number 8, Helena's going to talk to us about kids thinking for themselves.
Okay, I am unmuted. So, teaching your children to think for themselves is a very, very important skill. And sometimes it can be difficult to kind of let yourself get to that point. This is something that we want to start early on with our children. This is again a skill that we kind of want to build in them. And the earlier we start, the easier it is to continuously practice that skill and to improve at it. When we talk about teaching our children to think for themselves, one of the big key pieces is letting your child know that it is okay to struggle, it is okay to make mistakes, it's even okay to fail, as long as you can learn from that struggle, from those mistakes and those failures, and then improve upon whatever was done wrong in order to correct course, essentially. So modeling this for your children is one of the best ways for them to start understanding how to think for themselves. By watching you think for yourself, by watching you model this process of problem solving and independent decision making, they have an idea of what that looks like. So they're able to, at the very least, start to mimic that process. This concept of having them see our thinking and see kind of the path that we take to making a decision or solving a problem is this idea of metacognition, and this idea that there is, a method to the way that we approach things. So that metacognitive process of outlining the steps that you are taking when you are approaching a process or a question or something that needs to be solved, and going step by step by step and showing them, okay, this is the first thing that I did, then I'm going to do this, then third, this is the next piece of my approach. Actually verbalizing that thinking process for our children allows them to learn that skill themselves, and it allows them to then be able to model that when they're trying to solve problems and make decisions. And it's important to, again, I cannot stress this enough, to let them be comfortable in this. You want them to know that it is absolutely okay to not get everything 100% right 100% of the time or the first time, because that's just not how it works. That's not natural. So allowing them that ability to struggle is going to be really important in allowing them to not only be able to make decisions on their own, but to also learn how to make those decisions on their own. You want to make sure that you are listening to your child. Don't just, let them talk and kind of already have your mind made up and kind of make them agree to your decision. You want to hear what their train of thought is, why they're doing what it is that they're doing, so you can then have productive dialogue and be able to come to a solution either as a team or help them kind of find the solution themselves. But just giving them a solution, whether it's to a problem or a homework question or whatever it may be, doesn't allow them to learn that process of how to think for themselves. I remember as a high school student, I would, ask my dad for help on my chemistry homework. And all I wanted was, please give me the answer to question number 52, for example. And he was like, okay, we're going to start, from the beginning of this lesson, and we're going to go through the steps. And at the time, that was very frustrating for me because I wasn't interested in redoing the steps. I just wanted to know the answer to the question. But when I look at that in hindsight as an adult, I realize that him going through those steps with me not only allowed me to see that thinking process, but it allowed him to then figure out, where is she getting stuck? What kind of questions do I need to ask her so she can learn how to find that answer herself? So it was really important in teaching me how to kind of seek answers out and how to make my own decisions. Socially, it's also very important because we want to make sure that we are teaching our students how to think for themselves and how to make decisions, not based on what everyone else around them is doing, but based on what they, believe and hold true to themselves. So we want them to be able to come to those conclusions by having a productive thought process and by having the ability to know that it's okay if I do something and it doesn't work the first time. I can backtrack and look at those steps and figure out where I need to correct so it goes right the second time.
Awesome. Thank you, Talene. Next slide, moving into Polly.
Yeah, so when they're at home, that's very important, but we also want to have the student and the child be able to advocate for themselves at school. So we want them to be an active participant in the classroom to the best of their ability. One way that I always try to, when I talk to my son, I wanted to make sure that he didn't leave the classroom too confused at what he was expected to do at home. So having some kind of place that they can put their homework, or if they're using Google Classroom and they know that they can get all of their homework from there, but trying not to leave the classroom confused. And if you are confused, go talk to the teacher. And always kind of keep an eye on them and follow up if there's any assignments that are due or any work that is done. I think that's important. And then also, if they are really confused and they're at home, encourage them to find ways to not give up so easily. So maybe they have a study buddy or someone that they can call that's in the same class with them that can give them the information. So I think that's important. All right, you go to the next slide. And tip number 9, we're talking about the relationships, because as we know, school is not just academics. It's a lot to do with social. So really get to know their friend circle and talk to them about that. When they come home, say, how's the friends doing? What's new? Get the scoop. Be a listening ear. And hopefully they can come to you and you can help them with any kind of conflict resolution, because 100% there is going to be a time where they're going to have a conflict with a friend, and being able to support them with language that will help them with that conflict. And then most importantly, don't let them just mindlessly go on social media. Really keep an eye on that. Log into their phone, make sure that you're looking at the social media, make sure you're kind of seeing what's happening. That's probably going to give you an insight that's very different than your conversations. And then also, I would say, make sure you have access to their phone. If you can, have them turn it in at night. I always told my son nothing very good happens after 10 p.m. So it's important, get that phone out of their hands, let them get a good night's sleep. I think that's very important as well. And remember, there's so many different stages. Sometimes their bodies get big, but they still need a lot of time to developmentally grow, and give them grace. I think that's going to be an important skill. All right, next slide.
We're going to move away from this bucket around social emotional dynamics, but if you're a parent, you know that the drama that comes from school can be significant, and it really ends up being something you spend a lot of time and energy on. And we just want to encourage you and thank you. We want to thank you for investing in helping your child build relationships and navigate friendships and learn how to work with adults. They interface with a lot of adults at school. They interface with the government, the state and federal government at school. So they're learning how to manage and maintain a whole lot of different types of relationships. And for littles, gosh, for the adults, it's hard. So the best advice that I was ever given as a parent was to always proceed with curiosity and wonder, not blame and anger. Because how many times have I taught or done something in class, and the way the child took that moment home and described it was so different than how I experienced it. And yet I received phone calls from parents who were upset or angry or frustrated, or even the child was angry or frustrated. And knowing that the best footing is one of asking calm, kind questions, seeking information and answers, connecting people with warm-heartedness about how we can help, how can we fix this, how can we connect people back together. That's really, really important. Your teachers are helping your child model that as often as they can, but having that help at home from you as our partner, it's priceless. Thank you. So Crystal's going to take us into our final segment, navigating school systems. Crystal, take it away.
Okay, so let's talk about tip 10, become familiar with the tech side. So one of the things that we all know, it's so important to stay in communication with your child's teacher. The first thing you should do is take a look, if you haven't, often your child's teacher will post the class syllabus on Google Classroom, and that's where you can find their contact information, their email. You can also go to your school website, and if you go under contact information, you can find your child's teacher and it will have their information, often their email, their contact number, and many of our teachers have class websites on there as well. Another thing that is super important is to navigate our Glendale Unified School District webpage, because this website has a lot of important information about your child's academic programs. They even have sections dedicated to strategies, best practices that can help your child learn, that teachers are using in the classroom. And there's a lot of important announcements about upcoming school and community events, as well as board meetings and very important information that you can gather from the district website, as well as your school website. You can log into Google Classroom. Many of our teachers use Google Classroom to post assignments, as well as programs like Seesaw. And this is where you can keep track of upcoming assignments and class assignments. So this is a great way to kind of talk to your child when they're doing their homework and check in about when assignments are due. You can also see your students, your child's grades, attendance, as well as state test scores on Student Connect. This is a way that you can keep track and see how your child is doing every 5 weeks, and see all the information regarding whether they're on track for graduation. And then if you haven't done so already, please make sure you set up your parent email and download the Parent Square app onto your phone. So a lot of your administrator will send you messages via Parent Square and email. Teachers will send out messages via Parent Square and email, and you will just get general announcements from the school. So it's really a wonderful way to stay connected to what's happening at school and help your child help your child with their education and navigate their educational journey towards graduation. If you have additional questions about these types of programs and where you can kind of see what's going on with Google Classroom or Seesaw, or learn how to use Q, our department, Teaching and Learning, is a great resource. Your child's teacher. And we also have some videos on our website that will show you how to navigate these different programs.
I know it probably goes without saying, but can't hurt to repeat, is that schools in a post-COVID, post-pandemic world care very much about opening the doors of the schools back to the community and inviting you all back to campus to see what schools are up to. You are always welcome at our school campuses. We have formal events throughout the year where families are invited to come, meet teachers, see classrooms, and enjoy the activities that are happening on campus, such as back to school night, open house, spring festivals, global parties. There's so many things. Make sure when you connect with your child's school that you know what the calendar of events are, because you're more than welcome to come to school. You know, they say that the single biggest factor in a child's success at school is that they have one caring adult who is invested in making sure they're successful. The fact that you're on this webinar tonight means your child has that one person at home. And you have all of us here in Teaching and Learning and in Equity, Access, and Family Engagement who also care about your child and their success in our system. And then every teacher that your child has also has made that same commitment to make sure that your child is seen and cared for and helped to be as academically and personally successful as they can be in our school system. Your kids have a wonderful shot at being successful in their lives because you're here tonight, because you're going to take advantage of some of these tips, and because Glendale schools are wonderful places of teaching and learning. We're so thrilled that you came tonight to listen to us. We're here for you if you ever need anything else. We've got about 5 minutes left. Dr. Bailey said we're going to open this up to some questions. We're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Teaching and Learning team. It is truly appreciated, and the information that you all shared was very phenomenal. I would like to lead it off because some of our participants provided a few questions. And so if you have additional questions, please place them in the chat and I will ask the team. One of the questions that was asked was the conversation regarding books. Do you all recommend books being hard books, or what about books on electronic devices? Is there a difference there? And what are your opinions?
I have thoughts, but maybe Crystal, did you want to respond to that?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
So the question is, are books on electronic devices harmful to children, or should it be hardcover books?
So I think it's good. I think this was mentioned earlier in the night, but I really think it's good to have a balance, because I think in whatever way your child gets excited about reading, whether they want to read on an electronic device or they want to read a hard copy, if they're motivated to read, then that's fantastic. When you're reading now on an online digital device, there's a lot of great things that you can do. You can look up words automatically. If there's a word that you don't know, you can look up the definition. Sometimes they can also translate the word to a different language. You can annotate a book online, just like you can annotate a hard copy book. I personally think it's good to engage with both mediums when you're reading. I think it's really important. But any way they want to read, promote it. If they want to do the digital device or they want to read the hard copy, support it, because it means that they're reading.
I'll only add this as a secondary English teacher who had to diagnose my students' reading levels many times during the year, is that what I noticed is that there's a reading level for every student where they are at their maximum capacity to both understand the story and be able to process all that phonemic learning, all the language, all the vocabulary, and then the concepts. There's a level at which they are just able to understand, but oftentimes the enjoyment of reading occurs in levels just below that. And it's important that they do read books that are below their ability level, because that's when their motivation and enjoyment and their strength and nimbleness is getting a great workout. It's like me. I love running. I hate weightlifting. I'm good at running. I can do it. It's fast. It's fun. I know I need to weightlift. That is going to help me stay healthier over my lifetime and make me stronger. So I am going to keep running, but I also need to lift weights. Easy ones, light ones at first, and then progressively more difficult, so that both of those together help make me a strong person. Same with reading. Let them pick easy books, medium books, hard books. Watch their challenge, watch their struggle. When they get dispirited, when they get depressed, when they get bogged down or worried or stressed or upset about the reading, you know you've reached a level that's slightly too high for them, and it's time to have a Goldilocks moment and bring them down a step or two. Or join them. If they want to read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, but it's too hard for them, this is your moment to shine, mom and dad. It's time for some oral reading with your kid, and you get to read the story with them, but you're reading it to them. They'll enjoy that too. Other questions? Uh-oh, Dr. Bailey, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I said I'm checking the chat and I do not see an additional question, but I have one more question from a participant that emailed me earlier. And the question was asked, when is the best time to look into getting a tutor for my child if I see that they are still struggling academically?
Any specialists want to take this?
Well, I think that having a tutor is only a benefit, because as we've talked about, over the night, multiple exposures to content, what your child is learning in school is really beneficial. So if you see that your child is struggling and they need tutoring, there's a lot of different ways that you can assist them. Many different school sites, for example, at the high school level, some of the high school programs have pay for programs like pearsontutoring.com, where a child can access tutoring online at any time of the day or night. They can schedule an appointment. Other schools that don't have this type of program have tutoring on campus, where teachers volunteer to stay after school and help students. We also have something at the secondary high school level called super tutors. And these tutors are helping, these are students that are seniors, juniors, and they're experts in math, science, or English, and they're there to support other students, which I think is a really great avenue to help students that do need tutoring. And at the middle school, elementary sites, they have different things that they do to support students. And then obviously, if you need to hire a tutor or you need to hire someone outside of our school campus, you have so many options now via virtual or in person. But I definitely think that addressing your child's need if they're struggling right away is a great way to support them. But also, see what options exist first with your school, and then before you maybe hire someone from outside, because we do offer a lot of great options for intervention to help students as well as tutoring options.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Well, with that being said, I do not see additional questions posed by our participants, and I want to honor your time. I thank you all for staying in the moment with us when we had our technical difficulties, but we were excited and we had a lot of information to share. Again, if you all need support, if you have any additional questions, please speak with your school site, your teacher, your teacher specialist, or your admin team. We are all here to help your child be successful within Glendale Unified School District. Without any further ado, I would like to conclude this conversation. I want to thank the translators. I want to thank the whole teaching and learning team. This was an awesome experience. And if you could check your emails later on tomorrow, I will have the slide to share with you with additional tips regarding success outside the classroom and inside the home for your child. Thank you again and have a good evening. Bye-bye.